Welcome to the Tuesday Review. I'm Nathan, and I'm joined in the studio, as always, by James and Callum. How you going, boys?
Good, how are you?
Good. Interesting week.
Yep. Lots of crazy stuff going on.
Lots of crazy stuff's happened. So, to start it off with, we're going to be talking about Synchronic, the new, it's not new, the movie we've gotten just recently in Australia. With Anthony Mackie and Jamie Dornan. But first, James has some housekeeping.
Oh, I just wanted to say because, work's been nuts. I've been doing overtime. So, like I said a few weeks ago, I'm not sure if I'll make it to every episode. So, but I'm hoping, I've worked some stuff out. I'm hoping I'll be able to make it. But things are still...
There's always some bargaining.
Yeah, up in the air. Yeah. So, hopefully I'll be able to make it most weeks. And then, of course, we went into lockdown, so it didn't even matter. Just one thing, this doesn't even matter anymore because we went into lockdown and there wasn't no episode last week, so it's been 2 weeks. But on the previous episode, which I wasn't on, Nathan, you were talking about Disney Plus and Disney Star.
Yeah.
And you kept saying... all the Warner Brothers content is on Disney.
I meant Fox.
And you meant Fox. And I was yelling at my phone listening to the episode, being like, Nathan, you know it's Fox. And then you were like listing all the Fox content. You're like Die Hard and Alien and the X-Files. I'm like, those are Fox properties. But people knew what you were talking about.
Obviously, it was a brain fart.
People knew what you were talking about, yeah.
That's why you need to be here, James.
Exactly. I'm like, this is why...
because I know what I'm talking about, but sometimes it gets lost on the way out of my mouth.
Yeah, and I'm yelling. I'm like, Callum, why aren't you correcting him? No, but it doesn't matter. I think people knew what you were talking about. And speaking of Disney Star, it launched today.
It's out.
I haven't had a chance to look at it yet.
I've been peeking at it throughout the day. And it started with just like little program updates. Like if you search for things, you could find them, but they weren't publicly available in the front.
Yeah.
And then right before you left, I checked and it was fully updated.
Okay,
so
cool.
they had the star button and it was like all nice and lovely and pretty.
So it's like Marvel, Star Wars, National Geographic, and then Star.
Yeah, and Star's the only one which you can sort of make it disappear if you want parental lock.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Idea for
Disney, because without Star, Disney Plus was supposed to be all for family.
You get 6-year-olds watching Predator and Die Hard.
As they should be.
Yeah, the worst things
I should say I advocate for that.
I was talking about this with Alan today, actually. I'm like, look, on the list of things I'm happy for kids to... obviously, it's every parent or every guardian's responsibility. Every child's different.
Every kid's different.
It's for them to judge what their child, can sort of watch. If they're mature enough to watch it.
Obviously,
but those 80s action movies...
obviously, don't let your kid watch...
No, there's a difference between letting your kid watch Eyes Wide Shut and letting your kid watch Predator.
Yeah, and also, there's obviously a difference between a 6-year-old and a 10-year-old and a 16-year-old,
Yeah, especially when you go to the 80s, man. Even the kids' movies are a bit disturbing.
Oh, yeah. We've talked about this before. They don't make them like that anymore.
It's a different world now.
Yeah.
And some of those disturbing movies are now a Disney Star, so...
And some of those disturbing movies are now the ones that are getting reboots and remakes and
and they're all just going to be clean. And,
exactly. You can't.
No, look, so far, we'll talk more about Disney Star next week. We've had a chance to digest it.
I'll have a gaze at it.
But so far, from what I've seen, cursory games, I like it.
Yeah.
It's now worth the money.
Yeah,
basically.
Like you guys talked about, it's now become the ultimate streaming service, pretty much.
Yeah,
it's like a Netflix killer.
For me, it's up there with Netflix now.
Yeah,
Netflix and the others, they already have that sort of baked in Netflix original series.
Yeah,
but if I was coming out now with my own streaming service, I wouldn't want to be coming against Disney.
Especially when you consider Star has things like the complete library of American Dad and Family Guy and Futurama,
X-Files.
Some shows are missing some seasons. But I'm guessing that's just due to rights issues.
Yeah, I'm hoping that after those rights come back,
they'll just go to Disney.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing. That's another comfort thing I like about Disney Star. I probably said it last week. The fact that a lot of the content is probably just not going to go away because they own it.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing of Disney owns everything. So, Netflix, they're trying to go fully original. That's why they kept canceling things and moving things around. And it makes sense that eventually every streaming service is just going to have their own stuff so that nothing ever leaves it, which is good as a consumer because you don't want to have to be locked into, I can only watch this at a certain time of the year and then it's gone forever kind of thing.
Exactly.
But it's also, like we talked about a long time ago with piracy and stuff, it's also worrying because then there's 20 different streaming services all with their own content, and you can't kind of pick and choose what you want. You can't, and then we're at the cable problem again.
Exactly. We've talked about that before. Yeah, it's going to happen.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I'm sure we'll talk about it on the show in 10 years' time when we're all completely over.
Yeah, we're buying bundles of streaming services.
Yeah. Oh, no. I remember skin crawl when you said that. I was like, oh.
Packages.
Well, I mean, it already happened with Hulu, right? Because you had base Hulu, and then you pay extra for Showtime, you pay extra for HBO. It's cable again.
Yeah, and there's and then they have ads. Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see. Like, it's interesting. They have some movies. I had a brief look. They have some movies that I haven't seen on streaming before.
Yeah, you mentioned.
Like some really interesting stuff, like Romancing the Stone, Jewel of the Nile, or some of those older 80s classics.
Probably tied up in rights.
They had Lady Hawk, which I haven't seen.
Oh, that's a good movie.
Like, it's like stuff like some like the older movies which you don't traditionally.
The older Fox movies that never made their way to any streaming service are now available.
Yeah,
some of them are in 4K Dolby Vision.
Oh,
I saw a couple of them, and that surprised me. So this is going to be one of the things I'm going to have a good look at. Is seeing which, like, there's going to be some gems in there that are going to surprise us because they're going to be like, they're going to look amazing.
See, it's interesting. How is Binge going to react to this?
Fox doesn't care. Rupert doesn't care. He wants Binge to fail.
I think the question is, how is Netflix going to react? Binge is just going to keep plodding along. And
Netflix will be okay. Stan has more to worry about. I would argue. Yeah. Amazon's going to be okay because this is like a little side hustle for Amazon.
Exactly. Amazon's the biggest company ever. Netflix is already established. Stan in Australia is going to have
it's Stan that's going to have the most worry out of this in like long term.
Another development, I'm pretty sure it's a recent development, is that now rental functionality is available in the Amazon Prime Video app.
Yeah, that's nice.
It's been that way for a while, hasn't it?
A few weeks, I've noticed.
Yeah, a few weeks, yeah. So I never knew that because sometimes you'll be wanting to watch a movie and it'll be like rent it and you have to go to your computer. And
I wanted to watch The Kid Detective.
I want to watch that.
And I rented it through Amazon Prime store. And I just like it. Look, it's personal preference. It's not that big a deal for most people, but I like renting it through Amazon because it comes directly out of my bank account rather than like, because I got my iTunes account all tied up in like store credit, and I don't know, it's because I haven't got my card attached. So it's like, I don't want my card attached to it. So it's like, it's not as easy.
It's like a one-click thing.
Yeah. So if I'm renting through the Amazon store, it's because it's connected to my Amazon account, it just bills me. So I find that more convenient for me personally.
The more, whoever's more convenient will end up winning.
Remember we talked about the piracy issue before.
Yeah, it's like if you make it easy to pay for, I want to rent a movie.
Here's how you rent the movie. Please, charge my account.
You take my money.
The only problem is they don't separate them well enough on Amazon Prime. So you'll have there will be one row of sort of rental features. Yeah, and then one row of new to Amazon Prime originals, which you can watch for free. So
I see what you're saying.
They can play a little bit of gotcha with it.
That's happened to me recently where I've gone to watch a movie and gone, oh, cool, it's on streaming, clicked it, and it said rent or buy. And I was like, no, I want to watch it for free, please. Yeah. It's on your streaming service mixed in with your other movies. Yeah,
exactly. That's the only... the only sort of minor thing that I don't like.
There should be a store section.
There's a store section, but they mix them.
They are trying to get people to come across it and go, oh, I want to rent that instead of having to look for it. Yeah,
but it's a minor complaint.
Yeah.
Look, we'll bring you more.
We'll update
Disney
you.
Star, especially. When we get to it.
Should we talk about what I like to call the Star Wars incident?
Yeah. So we had an incident, and look,
it's so on brand for us too.
It is,
which is why I was like, we have to talk about it.
Yeah. Look. So I guess we act too quickly.
No. Look. Let's go back to the start.
All right, rewind.
Like, over a month ago, I want to say, Alex, a friend of ours who's been on the show before, said he got tickets to see the original Star Wars trilogy at the Astor.
25-year-old film prints that haven't
been... A 35mm print that hasn't been played in 25 years.
Original film negatives.
Now, in a side note as well, another friend of mine, unrelated, kept badgering me. You got to go see Star Wars with me. You got to go see Star Wars. And I said, I can't do it, man. It's for special editions. I'm going to hate it. I'm going to make it miserable for you. I'm going to make it miserable for everyone there. He's like, come anyway. It'll be fun. We can make fun of the movie, yell at the screen. I'm like, no, people don't want that. Like, people want to enjoy the movie. They don't want me to, dampen the mood.
Yeah.
So, and I was like, no, I can't. I'm not going. Then Alex is like to us, you guys got to go as well. And I'm like, no way.
Poor Alex, he's kept getting delayed because of
lockdown, yeah. So that was another thing as well. But like then Alex says, you got to come. It's the original trilogy. It's the theatrical version. And I was like, no, it's not. If it was the theatrical versions, it would be on every news. I would know it. Yeah, Trust me. I would be there day one.
I said to Nathan when he told me that's what Alex said.
Yeah.
I said, if that's true, that's amazing.
Yeah.
But I said, if it is true, what a gigantic PR failure.
Exactly. I was like, there's no way that's not news. There's no way they wouldn't have that plastered everywhere. There's no way that wouldn't be word of mouth on Twitter and Instagram.
Nerds everywhere. Yeah. Would be whispering to each other in dark corners.
Yeah, there's no way I wouldn't have heard of that, right? So then a couple more weeks goes past, I think, maybe even longer. And then, did you message me first?
I was talking about it at work with Alex.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, it's the original trilogy. I'm pretty sure. And like he's trying to convince me. So I looked it up and I went onto the page on the S Store's website and it's like the original trilogy.
Yeah.
Really extremely rare prints. Haven't been seen in 25 years. The best way to see it. The only way to see it. Yeah. And I'm somewhat convinced.
But didn't you say Alex also called the S Store and asked?
Well, he said he said he was pretty sure.
Okay.
No, I thought he asked.
Yeah, I thought he said he called.
He said he was pretty sure.
Okay.
I don't think he independently confirmed it.
Okay.
But he said he was pretty sure it was the original. So I'm like, oh, that's cool. So we got some tickets.
Yeah.
And we were feeling cautiously.
So then
pessimistic.
on the Friday when they announced the lockdown, the 5-day snap lockdown. You messaged me and you're like, I'm sure, I'm almost certain because it's the rare 35mm prints.
It's the thing, we'll get to it, but it's bad faith. Basically, it's bad faith ticket selling.
Yeah, there's it's like terms of service kind of things.
They should have definitely put...
You're lying by omission.
Exactly, they should have put special edition.
Yeah,
they didn't not say it, but they didn't say it either.
But when you're doing a Star Wars showing on 35mm, you need to make clear what it is that you're showing.
Yeah.
Can't just say Star Wars. You need because there's so many different versions.
Yeah.
You need to say 35mm Star Wars.
Yeah.
1997 edition.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't have to because there's a lot of legal issues with Star Wars. They can't legally say. Apparently, they can't legally say special edition because, according to Disney and Lucas, special edition is the only edition.
Yeah, it implies a non-special edition.
This is why I'm always so salty.
So when I did some research, and they legally can't say special edition, but they could get around it by saying 1997.
Yeah,
created 1997 edition. They could have been a bit more specific.
Yeah.
But
But anyway, so it's Friday. Everyone's going to lockdown. People are going nuts. I went to go get dinner. You message me and you're like, I'm pretty sure it's the theatrical versions. We gotta get tickets, even if it's not. We gotta get tickets. And I'm like, it's not the theatrical versions. You're gonna waste money. And then something happened and you were like, no, it's rare 35mm prints that haven't been seen in 25 years.
I got convinced.
Yeah, you were convinced. And I'm like, it can't be, man. I would have known it. And you're like, no. You're like, you made a good argument. And I don't blame you for what happened. You made a good argument. You said, if we don't go and it is the theatrical versions, we would have missed out on a
once in a
huge opportunity. And if it is like the shitty special editions, then it's like, we wasted $35 and we'll go and hang out in the city for a day, whatever. So can't blame you for what happened. But you did get my hopes up. Which
everybody
I got my own hopes up.
There was a good 5 minutes where I was furiously messaging you guys and you were messaging me back and we were like, oh my God, is this really happening? I'm like, you're like, I'm buying the tickets. I'm like, all right, go buy the tickets. And then as soon as you bought the tickets,
I was doing some Twitter research.
Yeah.
And one of the dudes on Twitter was like, no, it's a special edition.
Yeah.
And I was like, I wish I'd have known that 5 minutes ago.
As soon as you bought the tickets, you're like, it showed me a screenshot and the guy's to tweet it to the Astor, is it the special edition? And the Astor was like, sort of, it's the 1997 special edition, not all the later versions. I'm like, nah, man, that's still the CGI crap version. I'm like, get a refund. And you're like, no refund. And I was like, oh my God, this is the worst. We're in lockdown and...
Emotions run high.
It was a good 5 minutes of like, are we gonna see the theatrical versions in film on the big screen?
At least it was only $35.
Yeah.
Could have been.
Yeah.
Well, each.
Lesson learned though.
I will say though, like, I don't blame you for like. You made the right choice, because if it was the theatrical versions and we missed out, I probably would have been more mad.
You miss all the shots you don't take.
Yeah.
Michael Scott said that. That's right.
Yeah, but like the fact that, of course, it happened to us, but also, yeah, like it was that it's that thing. How do I articulate it? If they just said, "Oh, it's the special editions," I would have gone, whatever, not going. But the fact that we had that like 5 minutes of like hope, and then having it taken away, is that worse than them just going like, "No, you're never gonna get it"?
It is
like
worse.
I feel like it's like in Dark Knight Rises where you're in Bane's prison, and you have the hope you can escape through the hole. Like that's why it's there, to give people hope. And you're just never going to get out of it, you know?
Yeah.
But it's like, it's still there. Because if they just put you in a dark hole and like covered the entrance, you'd just
wait to
keel
die.
over and die. But it's like, I had that hope, and I was like, oh my God, this is even worse. I thought we were going to get it.
Yeah. Oh well, you know, that's
it's a good story.
Yeah, it's a good story. And you know what? We have our own projector at home.
Yeah,
we can watch the despecialized version.
Yeah, this year we're watching
right now it's Lord of the Rings.
The Lord of the Rings. This year's Lord of the Rings year.
Yeah,
we're watching the 4K extended editions, and then next year I said maybe next year we'll do the theatrical Star Wars again, like we did.
Yeah,
the start, 2 years. Is 2 years
couple
ago.
Years ago,
now.
the infancy of the projector obsession.
Yes. Yeah.
The first religious projector experience.
Eye opening. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the incident, which will go down in Tuesday review.
It was all a bit of a waste of time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, is that the theme?
It is. It's a waste.
Tonight's episode is just a waste of time.
Just a waste of time.
And our review for this week is Synchronic.
Yes, Synchronic, the new Aaron Moorhead or Aaron Benson?
Moorhead? Is that what they call themselves?
Which one's Aaron? Which one? Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead.
Yeah, Benson Moorhead is what they sort of build themselves.
They're co-directors of all their movies. We've talked about them before a long time ago. I want to say 2017.
Yeah,
on the old show,
Man versus Movies.
Yeah, because the endless in joke the endless. So their previous movie to this one, The Endless, was coming out.
There was a lot of hype for that too.
Callum was especially hyped. He's like, we have to see it. And I had seen their first two films, Resolution and Spring, which I really liked. And so The Endless was like, you know, a lot of hype, like exciting. Yeah. And then we saw it. And obviously being in Australia, it took a bit of doing to see.
Yeah, it did.
It wasn't easy to see. And then we did see it and we reviewed it on the old show. And for me, it was disappointing.
Yeah, I think that the interesting thing about them is that they're very interesting storytellers in the sense that they're not afraid to tackle subjects which are not really talked about in big Hollywood movies, at least. So like your weird sci-fi or your Lovecraftian
very
sci-fi.
Lovecraftian,
which is what I like about it. And that's why I'll probably see all of their movies.
Yeah.
Even though chances are most of their movies we're going to be like 4 out of 10 stars. You know what I mean?
If it goes in this direction, as we'll discuss.
But it's still interesting and refreshing to see some of the stories they tell.
Exactly. Their ideas are really interesting, and they're interesting storytellers, even if the movie doesn't really pan out at the end of the day. So The Endless came out, we reviewed it. We were kind of disappointed. Yeah. Me especially.
I saw The Endless first, and then I went back and watched Resolution.
Yeah, which is a no-budget movie.
But it's excellent.
And so much better than The Endless. And then Spring, their second movie, is just a little bit higher budget, still low budget, but I thought was amazing. And so for me, going from Resolution to Spring, like the direction of their career, I was like, it's got to be up. Like the next movie they do is going to be incredible. Then The Endless comes out, and it's another very low budget film. They kind of went backwards in budget, which is unfortunate that they couldn't probably get funding for an idea like that or a movie like that without any big stars or, you know, with a strange concept. So you can't blame them for that. But yeah, just the story didn't kind of pan out in the way they told it. And so it was kind of a step backwards for them. And then Synchronic comes out, which, again, because of COVID and release stuff in Australia, you know, it's technically like a year old at this point, I think.
Yeah, I'm just happy because for me, again, I mean, as we'll get into more deeply in the proper review, it wasn't particularly good. That being said, it's nice that for the wait, at least, we were able to actually go to our local cinema and watch it.
That's what I was going to say. I'm really, really surprised this movie came to our local Hoyts.
Yeah.
Because usually...
Is it a product of COVID? The Hoyts were just like, look, we'll get any movie we can get.
Maybe.
That's like kind of a positive direction, though. Yeah. In a weird way.
Yeah. Because like we talk about on this show, every week we talk about we don't get anything Australia. Like, and if you do get like an indie movie, it's either on streaming if you're lucky, or you have to go to a small cinema like the Nova. Like,
and if we do get something, it's a very limited run.
Yeah.
Like we got like I can't remember if it was Mother or Ladybird, and it was showing for like one day.
You know, as an interesting side note, I think we might end up seeing more indie movies at the cinemas, major chains, just as a consequence of streaming and the companies behind streaming pushing streaming harder. So you've got Disney movies simultaneously releasing, like Mulan and other movies releasing on streaming and theaters at the same time, even not skipping theaters altogether. Like Soul was a Disney Plus exclusive.
There's more room, I suppose.
There's more room. And you've got the HBO sort of movies.
Yeah.
Those
Warner Brothers.
Warner Brothers films. Being released through HBO Max as well as streaming. And so the pool of people going when they can just maybe watch it elsewhere through a streaming service or downloading it, or if it's available by other means, they'll take it. So there's going to be less, like from a marketing and like even just an accounting perspective, like you might end up seeing less numbers going to see these big tentpole films because they're available easily enough elsewhere. And
that's a temporary thing, though, I think, as well.
Yeah, definitely temporary, but that's interesting.
We're also in a lull for Marvel movies, too, which is another thing to consider. Because you look at the big Disney movies and all that.
TV shows,
would you consider WandaVision a giant movie?
No, I'm talking about theatrical runs.
Yeah.
So if you look at the way cinemas handle it, I mean, James has said before that what happens is it's not like it's like a contractual thing where they'll say, yeah, sure, you're going to play our movie on 10 of your screens.
Yeah.
And so now, of course, we're in a lull for that. So there's more room for these more adventurous kind of films.
Yeah, that could be the case. But if that's the case, it's not going to last long.
Which is why you got to get interested in your local cinema.
Get it while it's good.
Go to your local cinema, kids.
See what's going on your listings.
But also, like, if you have less people going to see these big movies, you know, that they want to focus movies that are actually going to get people going to the cinemas.
Well, this is not a movie that I think would drag people in.
No. But Anthony Mackie's getting big. Jamie Dornan, all the mums like Jamie Dornan.
Yeah, but like this is not a commercial movie. Like that's why it's even more surprising
you don't get
that
TV
it came
adverts.
to a mainstream
You don't get TV
cinema.
adverts or adverts on the side of a bus.
Exactly.
For
Synchronic.
On a related note, please don't take your kids to see this movie.
Oh,
Not because it's like mature rated necessarily. It is obviously has some mature themes with drug use and there's like depictions of graphic injuries and violence. But I would say, you know, there was a gentleman taking his kids to see it when we saw Synchronic at the movies. It's like nothing to do with that really. It's not that graphic really, but I would say
it's thematically heavy.
It's thematically heavy, but your kids will be bored.
Yeah. They're gonna start making noise and
it's not like a horror movie where the kids can get something out of it. At least. You know what I mean?
Thrill.
Scare the shit out of, but they get something.
At the start of the show, I said, let the kids watch like scary movies and stuff. But I'm like, don't take your kids to the cinema to watch them. Come on.
But I think with a movie like this, your kids would just be bored, man.
So that happened.
If you have to go out to the movie, if you want to go to movies and you have to take your kids because you can't find a babysitter or whatever, there are other movies.
This is not the movie.
This is not the movie to kids.
Yeah.
But that's neither here nor there.
Yeah. But I mean, it's good. Like, even though we can say that, we can all agree that the movie wasn't great. We're all really glad that it came out at our local cinema.
Yeah, we had the opportunity to see it.
We're all glad we had the opportunity to see it easily, and we're all glad we saw it at the end of the day.
Yeah, like at the end of the day, you know, if you've listened to this show at length, you'll know that we've often complained about not having the access to certain movies. So the fact that we could go to our local cinema, pay money to legally watch a movie and contribute to that movie's box office sales is nothing short of a miracle considering it was an indie film.
Yeah, exactly.
And Hoyts doesn't necessarily have the best track record of showing indie films in their their local franchises. Maybe in the cities, like in big cities, in CBDs and such.
Yeah.
But in your suburban franchises, not really.
Near us, they only have the tentpole films.
So it's nice to see that at least to some extent they're embracing indie movies or just more flexible scheduling of movies.
Yeah, it's good that it came out, and we're glad that we saw it, even though it wasn't great. Yeah. So I mean, should we just go straight into spoilers? And
let's just dive right in.
If you haven't seen the movie, I'd recommend watching Resolution and Spring first, and then if you really like those movies, then check out Endless and Synchronic.
As a bare bones overview, I would say. It's about two ambulance officers who one whose daughter goes missing after taking a new party drug
called Synchronic,
and the other has a terminal cancer who investigates the missing daughter basically and investigates the drug called Synchronic.
The Synchronic drug has like time bendy, time travel-y effects on the user.
So the general idea is essentially...
And anything they're holding.
Yeah.
Your pineal gland is like the gland that makes you stable in time. And when you take Synchronic, it has an impact on the pineal gland.
Yeah.
And
it's ridiculous when you say it like that.
Yeah, when you say it out loud, you become unstable in time.
Yeah.
And depending on where you are physically in the world, it'll drop you to a different place time. In time.
Yeah.
So here, the idea is... Where was the daughter when she did the drug?
Yeah. So
can he find her?
So Jamie Dornan's character,
before it's too late,
has a daughter who takes the drug, goes missing, and Anthony Mackie's character, who's his best friend and partner in the EMT ambulance, decides to investigate by experimenting with the drug and seeing if he can travel through time and find her.
If I was Anthony Mackie, I'd be like, my man, Jamie Dornan, you're going to have to do the time traveling. Because as an African-American in the South, I wouldn't want to be traveling back in time.
Yeah. Well, this is one of my problems with the movie is like you give the daughter to the guy who does nothing in the movie and his partner and friend is the one who does everything. Like, I know they're friends and he wants to help the daughter and, there should have just been Anthony Mackie's daughter.
Yeah, the stakes would have been higher. It would have felt, there would have been more emotional connection
and also,
to the struggle.
Yeah, and it also the whole terminal illness thing, so he takes more risks. I'm like, that's so played out, and like, if it was his daughter, he would do anything to get her back, even if it meant dying. So you can get rid of that subplot completely and just cut a lot of the fat. This is already a pretty low budget movie.
Yeah, there's a lot of fat on it.
They've already working within, there's only so many characters and actors you can have. Like, just get rid of it. Like, it should just be Anthony Mackie and he trying to find his daughter. Like, you're already... Because Jamie Dornan does nothing in this movie.
Nothing except complain about his marriage.
Pretty much, yeah. Which is also another thing, like...
wife bad.
Yeah, exactly. It's like this movie, like, at the end of the day, it doesn't resolve any themes. Like, if he was having a troubled marriage, that's never resolved at the end of the movie.
I think we joked about the time traveler element with Anthony Mackie going back in time in Louisiana, right at the start. Yeah. And we made a joke about him going back to when like slavery was the thing.
Yeah.
And that was a joke. We didn't think they'd actually go there. And in the end, he's like, uh-oh. And it's like, oh, no. Like, it's so obvious and almost boring.
That's another thing with this movie is it's
low-hanging fruit.
Yeah. It's
and they do it multiple times.
It's a really interesting idea, but a bad execution. And like we said after the movie, it's a good first draft of a movie.
Because the thing is, right, this is the thing about time travel movies that always bug me a little bit. If I'm traveling through time, the Earth is constantly hurtling through space, right?
Yeah.
So if I'm traveling back in time a certain amount to like a certain amount of time back into this exact location,
the Earth's not going to be there. Yeah, but I mean, there's a level of
you have to suspend that disbelief.
There is, but what they could have done is they could have sort of played with that idea a little bit and being like, well, you don't know where you're going to end up in the world because of...
Yeah, one thing Callum and I agreed on is that we didn't like how when you take the drug, it's literally just a time travel device. You take the drug and you travel in time. Like it's basically a time machine, except you ingest it. And I was like, it would be more interesting if it had more drug-like effects where you can perceive time differently.
Yeah.
Like he takes it and he goes back in time for 7 minutes, and then for the next day or two, he sees...
No, like the time travel, like, because he physically travels in time, and anything he's carrying or wearing travels with him. They could have had some cool
after effects of him.
But what I'm saying is the movie is trying to do that thing, but that's kind of boring. Like, it's more interesting if you do something more philosophical.
If he didn't physically disappear,
yeah,
but he can perceive
time
around
what I'm trying to get at. So, like, it would have been really interesting if it was like sort of like a crime movie, like an investigation movie, where he goes back in time if they want to do that, whatever. But like, and then the after effect is for a residual effect where he can sort of see a little bit, and he has to use clues.
This movie takes itself a bit too seriously at times, and
we'll get. It certainly does.
Like, because there's a bit at the start of the movie, like there's like a murder victim, and there's blood everywhere, and he looks up, and there's like graffiti, "Time is a lie."
Yeah.
And I'm like, if you're gonna do something like that, and then just have him take a pill and he goes back in time to different places and gets into sticky situations. Like, they never, like I said with the character arcs and stuff, they don't resolve any of their themes. They don't explore any of their themes. They just kind of state it. Like, if you're gonna have that time is a lie, then have the drug have the user perceive time differently, and discover that the world is not as it should be, or something, you know?
Yeah.
I feel like this movie wanted to be like Altered States or something, like a movie, like a philosophical movie about like the inner eye or whatever. You know what I mean?
Straight.
The mind's eye.
Yeah.
And instead, it
wasn't psychedelic enough for what it wanted to do.
Like the opening, that's a good point. The opening scene is super weird psychedelic. There's a couple in a sleazy hotel room. They drop the pill. And then they go on this weird trip through time.
Like they say that's because their pineal glands are calcified, and so it has like a lesser effect.
But before you know that, you're like, oh,
this is awesome.
They're setting up the rules of the drug, which is you take the drug and you like have your mind travels through time and space.
Yeah. So it's like what we're talking about. They're still physically there.
Yeah. But then later in the movie, you discover that no, it actually physically travels you there,
depending on the state of your
gland. Like, depending on your gland, like younger people can just physically travel and not come back, whereas if you're older, you travel for a bit and then you flicker out and you come back. And I'm like, that's kind of boring. And if you are going to do that, you're taking yourself too seriously in a movie that it should be one or the other.
Yeah, like that opening sequence is what I wanted.
Yeah, it should have been, if they were going to go with the whole time is a lie, you know, change your perceptions of reality, take the drug and, you know, discover your mind's eye and what it means to be human, yada yada. That's one movie. That's like a serious movie. On the other hand, he takes the pill, he travels through time, the KKK comes after him in the 1930s or whatever, and he has to run away and escapes just in time. That's another movie. Like, I feel like if you're going to do that,
and then you
should have taken yourself less seriously.
And we get a retread of that like 100 years previously later on.
Yeah, and they keep doing the same thing over and over, just in different time periods where he gets chased and then he returns back to...
There's no meaningful exchange when he goes back in time. There's no character development.
So what I'm saying is, like, if you're going to do that, mix it up and also tie it into the character and the themes, but also maybe take yourself less seriously and make it more like an action-adventure movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I was like, there's so many points in this movie where I was like, this would have been a great, like, 80s buddy cop movie. Where it's like, you know, at the start of the movie, right? Where they see the stab wound in the guy. And then you're like, oh, he's a junkie, like... his girlfriend probably stabbed him. They were strung out on heroin.
All the junkies have invaluable swords
and
from
then
hundreds of years ago.
It pans up and there's like an old pirate sword in the wall, and it takes itself so seriously. I'm like, if this was a cheesy 80s horror movie, like he would have been stabbed by the sword and they would have been like, what the hell, where did this sword come from? And then they look on the hilt and it says like 1729, and it's like, what, where did that sword come? And then they go to the lab and the guy tests it and he's like, this metal is from the 1700s, you know, like cheesy. Like, you know, like on one hand I like that it's about EMTs and not about cops, because EMT, it's different, like you have a bit of a different, but this kind of movie where you're investigating death by drugs needed to have like cops, or like a cop and a scientist, you know, or a cop and a doctor,
or Anthony Mackie should be like assisting a policeman, like when he's not on the job.
That's another thing,
someone he knows.
That's another thing, is like conveniently Anthony Mackie just happens to have been like a casual fan of like
armchair
physics. He's like, I read a lot of physics books, so I know about this stuff. I'm like, just make him a physicist. It would have been less dumb. It would have been... You still have to suspend your disbelief. You could even keep the character right.
You could say, oh, he was a physicist, but he got burned out and he decided to help people, so now he's a paramedic. It's a movie.
Even have...
You know what I mean?
When his family died in Katrina, or they've died before Katrina, but, you know, they could have just written that in.
He decided he wanted to help people.
See, that's another thing. Like I was saying, they establish halfway through the movie, Jamie Dornan's character establishes just out of nowhere, random flashback insert scene of Jamie Dornan speaking to his wife, and it's just out of nowhere. It's like Anthony Mackie's character, Steve, I think. The reason Steve's like this is his family died, and then after Hurricane Katrina, the coffins
he saw the bodies
rose up and broke open, and he saw the bodies, and now he's scarred, and that's why he drinks and womanizes so much.
He didn't seem affected by it. Yeah, it's like, I have no basis to like
and then it
assume that he was scarred by it.
Yeah, and then it cuts, and I was like, why was that scene placed there of all places, and why was he just telling it randomly to his wife for no reason?
And their assumptions are wrong. And anyway, he drinks and pops all the pills because he has a brain tumor, not because he's scarred.
No, and then he says later on, he's like, I womanize all the time because I want what you have, which is a family. I'm like, and then at the end of the movie, they don't tie any of this in. He doesn't go back in time and meet his family. He doesn't go back in time and meet the perfect girl and he's dying anyway, so none of this matters. It would have been better if he wasn't dying, and then at least if he died, it's a tragedy. Or if he didn't die and he found what he was looking for through the drug. Yeah. At the end of Altered States, where he's like has an epiphany. He does like the drug, and he's like, "Whoa!"
This is gonna sound weird, but I would have liked a world where he gets stuck, and we get a sequel where there's a throwaway scene where the chemist is like, "Oh, we found these flowers in North California." Yeah. I would have liked a spin-off where he's stuck with his present day knowledge, and he has to get the flowers.
That would have been a more interesting movie.
It's his way back.
Yeah.
Although he's dying as he's sort of he's like he wants to get back to present time by finding the magical flowers and consuming the flowers.
That'd be a cool thriller.
This is a completely different movie.
It's a completely different movie, but it's more interesting than him just sitting on the rock and being like, I guess I'll die.
That's why I'm saying it's a good first draft of a movie. They have a lot of interesting ideas, some interesting moments. Like the bit with the dog, that was pretty great.
Yeah.
Where he's pulling the leash and he's like, come on, the guys are coming after him. I'm like, this could work. But there's not a lot of those moments in the movie. Yeah. And that's more of a tense like action scene. The character moments and the themes in that aren't well developed.
Neither is the dialogue.
And the dialogue's very stilted.
What I liked was that scene where he's in the Stone Age. I don't know, it's the Stone Age. The Ice Age, I should say.
Yeah.
And then he sees the caveman Neanderthal person.
Yeah.
And they kind of sit down and they look at each other in the eyes, and there's that moment of connection.
Yeah.
That's the only real like character building moment that uses time travel
through the time. Yeah.
And like the rest, like you said, it's all running away, and he doesn't really learn anything. He doesn't grow from the experience.
See, if his character had to go back in time to connect with his family or find out where he comes from or something, anything. I'm just making stuff up. But, at least then he has like a reason to.
The time travel actually means something as opposed to just being a device.
We said it before, but it would be much better to have Jamie Dornan maybe being the time traveler, because then they wouldn't necessarily be bogged down
in American history.
By American history.
That's the other thing. Every time there's a racial element that they can't really explore. They can just he pops back in time and people treat him like crap because he's black, and then it pops back to modern day, and then he pops back and it happens again.
There's nothing wrong with having that.
Yeah.
But this isn't like the context behind this film.
That's another layer.
It's just a sci-fi.
It's not a movie about race.
That's another layer you can't explore, so you should probably remove it.
It either has to be the sole point of the film.
Yeah.
Like, because there's so much subtext to unpack with it.
I mean, this is an interesting discussion that we might have had before, but it's like, because it's always for the last like 5-10 years, it's like, diversity is becoming more and more important because the white man character is so that's what it's always been.
Diversity is great.
So
but with time travel movies,
but it's like it's like I think it's also an excuse for us to say, well, it's too hard to have him be black because then when he goes back in time, then there's going to be too many problems.
But if it's a movie about that,
you can't erase the past.
Yeah, but it's like, if his character had more to do and was more, had more to learn and was more developed through the time travel,
true.
Then it doesn't matter whether he's being persecuted in the past or not. That's true,
because in our time travel in our little time travel scenes where he's testing the pills out, see what they do.
He's basically
he's just there to see what happens.
He gets there, he yells out for the daughter. When she's not there, he gets chased by racists, and then he pops back.
Yeah, literally.
And it's like.
It's kind of pointless.
Like I said, if you're going to do that, just make an action-adventure movie. Yeah. Like, don't pretend to be philosophical when you're not going to explore.
It could have been one of those cheesy 80 movies where it's a small town and it's the same family chasing him, like, through the generations.
That would have been so good.
It could have been the same
or
family.
Like,
and you got
the granddad who's like, I remember the same actors. Yeah, he's like, wide-eyed. It's like,
and it's like that. It's like that Biff thing. It's sort of like...
Yeah.
And it's like, we could have seen like the same sort of character in like the 20s and then the 60s and then the 80s. And it's like the old man always hates this guy for a reason. And we find out why through the movie. That's actually, that kind of cheese.
That's also another interesting movie that's completely different. Is like exploring institutional systematic racism through time travel.
Yeah.
Like going back and seeing a guy's life and being like, why is that guy like that? Why is he like... How do we fix that at the source?
That's a different movie. Remember that's a better movie.
What was that time travel movie where they just their idea was just kill all racists, and we were like, what?
I don't.
In the moonlight, in the shadow of the moon, is that what it was called?
Yeah. Remember the Netflix movie?
Like that lady was going back through time.
They were killing undesirables and people that contributed to the far right.
And I was just like, that's.
Yeah, that was an interesting movie up until that sort of
and we were kind of like, wouldn't it be more interesting to go back and like because for us like
and lead people, and I think in
like
our
lead
review,
people on the right, it's because it's all about education.
Yeah, in our review we talked about instead of just killing people, how about you shift,
and also it would have been interesting if like the character who was racist like kind of learned to not be racist instead of just being like he's racist, let's kill him. So this
because it is a learned thing.
Yeah.
It's not, you're not born. Yeah. There's like no babies coming out saying racist stuff or thinking racist stuff.
Yeah. So it's like that would be an interesting movie too if you're going back in time and like discovering why something is and perhaps fixing it. Like Marty McFly fixes the timeline and then becomes rich. And it's like whoop-de-doo, great, happy ending. But it's like what if you go back in time and you fix institutional racism? Now on one hand that's kind of ham-fisted. But you see what I'm getting at. Like, there's much more interesting stuff here that they don't explore.
It's like they wanted their fingers in lots of pies, but they didn't want to commit to any one pie.
Like I said, it's a good first draft. Like, they came up with the idea, and now we're doing the work they should have done. We're brainstorming the scripts they should have done.
What would you say? Send us a check?
Send us a check. Yes, we're back, baby. We're post 3 lockdowns. How many 4 lockdowns? How many lockdowns do we have?
I don't know, man.
Victoria living up to our name. Quarantine.
Quarantine state.
Lockdown central. Oh my god.
That time travel pill is a good idea. It was wasted.
I don't like how the pill is literally just like some scientist made it as like a quick buck. he sold it to some like smoke shops, and they were just selling it commercially, fully legally because it wasn't an illicit.
There's not like one scientist somewhere, like in like like the agencies who have to test.
Does the FDA not exist in this?
That's what I was gonna say. There's not one guy at the FDA who's like, oh wow, I traveled through time.
Again, that's another thing
we tested this on a bunny and he disappeared and ended up in the 70s.
This is another thing they get wrong, because like this sort of stuff happens in real life, but they can't legally sell them as pills. So what you do is you go to a head shop or whatever they call themselves now, and usually they're incense, right?
Yeah.
They're billed as incense or like different types of
liquids,
herbs or liquids to burn as incense.
Yeah,
and people consume them orally or smoke them in a vape or what the kids do these days. But selling it as a pill would never work in real life because you'd have to get it regulated by the FDA, and the FDA would be like, no one's consuming these pills because if it's a pill, it's medication.
Yeah,
it's meant to be ingested.
It's meant to be ingested.
There's no innocence disclaimer.
Yeah, because the companies they do all this, and like famously kids died when they consumed this fake marijuana.
Yeah.
And it's very, very toxic, but it's not against the law, and they keep changing. And this happens in real life too. They keep changing the ingredients a little bit. And
but if you're going to do something like that, make that a subplot of the movie where like the manufacturer, like the corporate lobbying side of like, we're going to keep this legal as long as we can and push the government regulation as long as we can.
Exactly. It would have been more interesting to see how they got a pill to market.
That would have been an interesting movie.
It's another movie,
like
but it's a more
like a legal
movie.
drama.
What's that? There's a movie. There's a movie. I can't remember what it is, where they like show the manufacturer of like ecstasy. Like they could have done something like that. Like show the manufacturer of it, and then show it get to market, and then show the couple taking it, and then show the effects.
Yeah.
And then hard cut. The cops are like, you've got to get this off the street, you know?
That was another oversight.
And the only guy who can help me is the guy who created it.
Yeah.
Also, why does it have to be legal? You know what I mean?
That's the thing. I was like, that's such a strange thing to do.
Why can't it just be
I think this is
some guy in his shed making this drug and then selling it to people who then sell it to the stores or what have you?
It would have been funny. Idea time. It would have been funny. It was like a crazy man on the street being like, dumb trouble pill. Nobody takes him seriously except people's like, oh, this is a random pill. Let's pop it and see what happens.
But this is another problem with the movie.
We want the 80s version, James.
Yeah. But I think the writers wanted to tie things up, so they're like, there's only like 5 pills left in existence, and we know that the scientist who created it is dead, and we know he destroyed everything, and we know Anthony Mackie had destroyed everything except for 5. And then once he takes those 5, that's it. And so you can't find the daughter, and no one else can mess with the timeline. And so they're wrapping everything in a nice bow. I'm like, no,
you don't need that, though.
I'm like, no. If you want to do the existential Time Is Alive version, you're gonna have to drop some heavy stuff on us. You're gonna have to be like, what's the implications of this long term? Also, because their previous movies have been very Lovecraftian and apocalyptic, this movie doesn't really have that. Like it has some visuals of like crazy stuff going in the sky that I really liked, and they should have pushed
stars whirling.
Yeah, they should have pushed that further. But I'm like, maybe have the drug, like everyone gets addicted to this drug, changes everyone's perception of time, and society kind of just collapses in, or like
and I mean, if you wanted to take it in a horror direction, you keep the same film, but the side effect of the drug is you start to see things that aren't there. Whether that be
and that's another movie altogether.
Yeah, it would be like a cosmic thing. So he's trying to find the daughter while being haunted by these hallucinations.
That's another thing altogether. Is like it breaks down barriers so you can see the cosmic beings that live in between the dimensions. That's another movie again. Send us a check, please. Jesus, how many movies have we come up just in this?
Well, in this episode, a few. Over the course of our shows, we fix so many movies.
I mean, like I like Benson and Moorhead, and I would see their next film, even though it seems the direction they're going in is a bit of a downward direction. But it's like
they have interesting ideas. It just seems like execution's not their strong suit.
Yeah, mate. Yeah,
we'll see.
It's so strange. Like their first 2 movies were so strong,
like you said,
and their second 2 movies.
The script for this film.
Oh, it's shocking.
So the final scene of the movie.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So to me,
I forgot about this.
So to me, this sums up the entire problem with the film. Is it doesn't seem like they had a good knee jerk, right? And they just wrote that down and they filmed.
You know how I said they take themselves too seriously?
Yeah, it's exactly
in saying that as well. They lacked some self-awareness because this scene specifically
and subtlety.
So the bond between the two primary cast members.
Yeah. Which is not well developed and not earned at the end.
It's supposed to be, they're supposed to have known each other since their college days. They're grown men. They basically grew together. You know, they're very close. And then, of course, Anthony Mackie in the film gives the final pill or whatever to the daughter.
He sacrifices himself.
Yeah.
Now, one big problem I have with the ending, before I get to the actual thing we're talking about, is he sacrifices himself because he doesn't distract the final racist boss in time. And so, for some reason, he moves away from the rock when the guy was already walking towards him.
When the pill wears off, you have to be in the exact same place you were standing when you got there, when the pill took effect. So if you're not, you get stuck in that time period.
In the finale, they travel back to the Civil War. And that's...
I think it's earlier.
It could be.
There's British redcoats.
It could be the war for independence.
So, I read somewhere it might be in the war from 1812.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's an ye oldie musket war.
Yeah. So there's like gunshots going on and explosions and that. And it's like apocalyptic imagery.
Which for a low budget movie, that was like okay.
And
like,
so
okay.
Anthony Mackie crawls through like a trench full of corpses and he finds the missing daughter and he takes her back to the rock. Yeah. But this gentleman arrives and he's like, "You're my slave, ha ha. You're my slave." And he's like, "I'm your slave."
He's got a gun pointed.
He walks away from the rock, which he knows he's got a timer ticking down on his watch.
He could have bided his time.
Yeah, that's my point.
Exactly. He could have sat on the rock and put his hands up and said,
"Come get me."
Yeah, I'm
too tired to move.
Yeah, like
I've been shot.
He's been shot. Yeah,
exactly.
He can see that he's been shot. Oh my god.
Anyway,
it writes itself. Come on.
My point is, he sacrifices himself because Benson and Moorhead seem to not be good writers.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds harsh.
They didn't want...
Like I said, he's dying anyway.
We know they can actually write a good film.
Yeah.
But it seems like they forgot that.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, anyway, he sacrifices himself in a really ridiculous, unnecessary way.
He gets stuck in ye olde times.
Yeah.
The daughter pops back to
present
day. He embraces the dad. Yeah. And then they turn around and
they have this god-awful handshake.
And Anthony Mackie's there, but he's like ghost.
He's like dying. Yeah, it's like basically dying.
Yeah, he's like fading away like Marty McFly.
Back into...
Yeah, like he's still stuck in the 1800s or whatever, but he's kind of phasing into the
and you get this close-up of a really firm gentleman's handshake.
Yeah, like really awkward for two guys who've known each other.
The culmination of their entire relationship is this really stiff handshake. And I was just like, we laughed.
It lacks so much self-awareness. Like it doesn't know how cheesy it is.
Like I say, it's it's an indie movie because no one would have signed off on that.
They establish early in the film that if you grab something from the present day when you're
it anchors.
She should have been hugging him.
So it's like, are they trying to say that he actually came back to the present day and they were just doing an Inception where he's just like cut to black? Did he come back? Did he not?
No.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But I'm like, he's dying anyway. It doesn't matter. You've written that into your film. And if you wanted to show that, you can do it less awkwardly than the most uncomfortable handshake that two best friends apparently have ever shared.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, they're not as well established enough to be that, I don't know. It was baffling.
And that's how the film ends.
Yeah.
Like, it's not some cool, did he come back, did he not, where...
we
exactly. Talked about it, the daughter could have been...
It's not an... it might have wanted to be an Inception, but an Inception ending, got everyone talking. People still talk about the ending to this day.
But, the ideal ending, if they wanted to go that route, should have been the daughter hugging her father and then looking up and her eyes going wide, like you said.
Turns around and he's like, cuts to black. I was like, oh, did they see him?
Yeah.
Or were they just noticing
that would have been
something?
fine.
Yeah.
I don't know. I said, for me, it's 4 out of 10 because I like the idea.
The idea is good. It's a good first draft. It obviously generated a good discussion tonight, but
it reminds me of a Philip K. Dick story, and that's why I like it. Like that strange,
a Philip K. Dick
sci-fi
story would have gone in the really weird existential, where the guy gets trapped and he freaks out and he goes on a trip and but this movie's very kind of, it doesn't know what it wants to be kind of thing.
It plays it safe.
Yeah. Also, why did Jamie Dornan and his wife have a baby if the baby wasn't important and the teenage daughter was the only one who was important to the story?
Because they made a joke in the movie about don't have kids 18 years apart.
And the racist baby
even though
joke.
You're too old.
The racist baby joke, which...
and the racist baby joke.
Both of you called a minute before it happened. But
the movie was pretty predictable.
Yeah, but it's just a lot of weird decisions. Like they could have just changed a few things.
It's primarily a script failure. Because the direction, apart even the dialogue, I mean, the direction was fine.
Yeah,
it was. They did what they could.
Nice. Also,
they did what they could with what they had.
Yeah,
just the script sucked.
Also, like, if he's going back in time not even as a white guy, but he's black and he's going back to these times. He doesn't know where he's going to end up. He could end up in the jungle. It's geographical, so it's still going to be New Orleans. But he could end up somewhere where there's a saber-toothed tiger, or he can end up somewhere where there's a guy with a machine gun. He doesn't take a gun, he doesn't take a knife, he doesn't take a bat. We establish early in the film that things that phase through time do get damaged or morphed slightly.
Yeah.
But his watch and clothes and stuff get slightly warped, but they still work fine and look fine. So he could have just taken something, at least to protect himself.
Baseball bat.
Yeah.
Like, at the end of the day, if a baseball bat warps, it's still going to be
just
a bat.
pocket knife.
It would have been interesting, and this is completely different.
Yeah.
It would have been interesting if he took like kind of like riot gear or whatever, and then he looks like an alien. And
so, you know what? And then he pops like in the middle of like a grocery store in the 60s, and people are like, "What?" Yeah, back.
You can't be in this store.
He's like the inspiration for an urban legend for the town.
Yeah. See, that's how 80s
the fun. That's
movie.
the fun 80s version.
Fun 80s
See, on the other hand, like I was saying, you can do the 80s fun version, or you could do like the existential version. They're doing.
There's also no cool montage. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But like, funny. On the other hand, if you want to do the more serious existential philosophical version, like they use like MDMA and stuff, LSD to treat PTSD in soldiers and stuff. Yeah. There's a lot of research into
microdosing and stuff like that. Yeah.
And like expanding your mind and doing the whole Joe Rogan sensory deprivation tank,
dropping a load of DMT and getting in the tank.
Get in the tank, boys. But like that stuff's really interesting. And the further we get, the closer we get to a reality where if that's not legal, it's at least decriminalized But anyway, it's used in such a way that is not just mind-bendy and like, well, I'm going to go on a trip. It's beneficial.
Yeah, therapeutic
to people who have debilitating mental illnesses, PTSD, what have you.
Yeah.
So you could have Anthony Mackie could have been an EMT who has PTSD from all the stuff he's seen.
He could have been a first responder for Katrina. You know what I mean? They keep mentioning Katrina, right?
It's like in New Orleans. He saw his family float up in dead body coffins.
It writes itself. We've seen it before.
Or they could have gone super cliche. He comes back from Iraq. He's got PTSD. Yeah. He's dropping DMT. It's not working. This scientist comes in. He's like, I'm doing this test. It's not FDA approved yet. You have to sign this waiver. It's called Synchronic. You drop it. And you see your whole life flash before your eyes, literally, or some shit like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
First draft. See, we've done what, like 10 different ideas.
Spitballing.
Yeah. And any one of these could have been amazing.
We're not doing that much.
Yeah. Send us a check, please. We got to get paid for at least one. Benson and Moorhead, like.
Let us write your movies, man. We'll keep it weird.
Script supervising.
Yeah, like, just throw us a bone here. Come on.
That's about all the time
I want to mention two things. They keep doing close-ups of tree carvings.
Yeah.
Never mentioned again. Never explored.
Like I think
always.
Right at the end, right at the end of the movie, we said, "Could he please just carve always into the rock?"
At least something.
At least that would have been an okay ending. Like he's like leaning against the rock. He's dying. He's been left in time, but he's completed his mission.
You could have the daughter as he's fading away. The daughter can be like, "Will you be there for me?" And then he's carving always.
Now that's the cheese I want to see. But also one thing really quick before we have to sign off is, when we see a shitty movie like this on Netflix, of similar quality, and everyone sees it because it's on Netflix, and it gets the worst reviews, and people say it's the worst movie of all time, worst movie of the year, whatever. And we usually kind of try to defend it, at least in the merits that it has.
Yeah.
I think this is a case of a movie that, because it was theatrical, less people saw it. Only people who were interested or who knew Benson and Moorhead saw it. And so it's getting more mixed reviews, I'd say. Not positive, but... And so this kind of just demonstrates that if you see one of those crappy Netflix movies and everyone says it's the worst movie of all time, keep in mind if that movie came out at the cinema, less people would have saw it. The people who saw it would have been more
Especially
tailored
niche,
towards it.
And this could have very easily been a streaming movie.
Yeah, and if it was, everyone would have seen it and they would have been talking about how it's the worst movie of all time, you know? And it's like, yes, it's not great, but it's one of those things we always talk about where it's like Netflix gets a bad rap because it's more available to people to watch.
Yeah.
It's more available to a wider audience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, whereas if it's theatrical, it's more available to people who are going to go see it anyway, like us. And even though we didn't like it and we gave it a hard time, we had an interesting discussion around it rather than just talking for an hour about the bad backlash that it got like we usually do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, thank you everyone for listening. Please like and share the Facebook page, the Twitter, the Instagram page as well. We appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
You can listen to all of our podcasts on iTunes, Spotify, Shout Engine, or wherever you listen.
Yeah, we're on Spotify now. That's cool.
Yes, very cool. Thank you everyone again, and we'll catch you next Tuesday. Adios, cousins.
I was going to say, I thought you were going to forget. Adios, cousins.